frozen for the moment it happens. Let's give him a couple of minutes to try to refresh. In the meantime, we're going to bring our panelists up on stage. So I'll go through introducing them, and hopefully by then Lincoln is back in action. So today we have with us Mindy Day, who is the Senior Community Manager at Discord. Mindy, do you want to jump on screen and share a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Mindy. I currently run community at Discord, and I've been working as various types of community managers, community professionals for the last 10 years. And I'm really passionate about gaming, both personally and professionally from a gaming community point of view, and really excited to be here and get to chat with you all today.
Amazing. And next up, let's introduce Isaiah Turner. Isaiah is the lead community specialist at Hi-Res Studios. Welcome, Isaiah. Do you want to just say a few words about yourself? Oh, looks like you're on mute.
I fixed it. Apologies.
There we go. No worries.
Cool. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday. I'm Isaiah Turner. I've been in the game industry for just about 5 years now, all of which at Hi-Res Studios based in Atlanta. We make free-to-play games and games as a service such as Smite, Paladins, and Rogue Company. And I'm currently the lead community specialist at Hi-Res, focused on engaging players, in creating the best player experience possible for all of our fans.
That's awesome. Welcome. And last but not least, we have Alyssa Choi, who's the community developer at Ubisoft. So Alyssa, welcome to the stage. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're all
awesome. So hi, my name is Alyssa, and I'm the community developer from Ubisoft, and I am currently leading Assassin's Creed. I'll be moving off to a different project soon. But I've been in the game industry for about 8 years now, and it's been a long journey. And I apologize for the lack of lights in the background. I turned it off for today because I wanted you guys to focus on me, my face, and my beautiful voice, of course. But there you go. Yes.
That's awesome. So I'm super excited to dive into this discussion. We'll see if Lincoln can jump back in. It looks like he's having some issues with his internet, but it's all good. Let's jump right into the panel. So I think it's really fascinating how people actually get into the community world in the first place, and especially community in gaming, such a fascinating industry. So let's just do a quick round of intros, like how you actually got into community and what drew you to gaming. And let's kick it off with Mindy again.
Awesome. So I've always loved gaming since I was a kid and had my first PlayStation 1. And I'm actually wearing my old shirt to represent where my love for gaming came from. So I've always played video games, computer games, and really got into community management as a profession, really straight out of university. I studied English literature and was lucky enough to get a first job as an online copywriter. So it was my job to write product descriptions for socks and things like that on a website, which is crazy. You never think about how every online store, someone had to write everything that you read on the internet. But in that entry level job, I tried to do as much as I could beyond the scope of just product descriptions. So I sort of wheedled my way into the blog, wheedled my way into creating a Pinterest and a Twitter account, and really started trying to take on any additional tasks outside of just copywriting. And that was kind of how I first realized that, building relationships online was what I wanted to do. And just every job since then, I've been trying to do more and more of community management. That's how I got into it.
Super cool. What about you, Isaiah?
Yeah, so I've been gaming pretty much my entire life. I think one of my first memories is playing, Mario 3 on the old school NES entertainment system. So I've always been a fan of games and always been a fan of the space. And my first job in the industry at Hi-Res was actually I got in and worked as customer support And then I did QA for a little bit. And while I was on QA, I kind of just made an effort to be kind of super forward facing and really just dive in with the community, collecting bug reports and troubleshooting with players directly, and building a following through Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. I got interested in community, and the opportunity arose, and I took it, and I'm super happy with where I'm at right now, and just the opportunity to work directly with players each and every day and make the best experience and best game possible for everybody alongside them is super awesome.
Super cool. And Alyssa, what about you?
As you know, Mindy and Isaiah, I've also been a gamer for my entire life, but I didn't really get into gaming too hard until like in university, because my parents were really strict about gaming. And so when I got away from them, I was like, game on, let's go. And the way I got into the gaming industry, honestly, it's because I speak a second language. I speak Korean. And so the first company that I was ever with, they were looking for someone that can both speak English and Korean. And so they were looking for someone like that. And I came in, and that's kind of how I got into the game industry.
That is super cool. So really fascinating how everybody got into it. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you all sort of do day to day in your roles and what some of your community programs look like. So let's do this in a different order. I don't always want to pick on Mindy first. So let's kick it off with Isaiah this time.
Yeah, sure. So a day to day in the life of me is just always focusing on how we can excite players around what we're doing across all of our games at Hi-Rez. I really believe that with player excitement comes engagement just almost naturally. So trying to really get players excited about what we're doing to start the conversation, get them engaged. We run all sorts of different community programs to get players engaged and talk about the games. We have partner programs that we run. We have a very robust esports ecosystem that we run as well. We do, live production and update shows and developer streams, all focused around communicating what's coming up in our games, getting people hype and excited about it, and continuing the conversation across all forms of social media.
Super cool. Alyssa, what about you?
Same. But I'm in a lot of meetings to work with our different partners internally to make sure that the initiatives that we want to do with our community can happen. Because when it comes to community initiatives, it's not just our community team. It's about making partnership with like our business teams, our production teams, and so we usually work a lot with them to make sure that the things that we want to do can happen with them. And we're also making sure that we're, helping our community leaders get the resources that they can get to be able to be a sustainable community. And so that's something that we're always working on, aside from trying to, excite the community about the upcoming content and things like that.
Very cool. And Mindy, what about you?
So I'm pretty new to joining Discord. I only started working there in August, so in the remote times. But very lucky to work with an incredible, team of other community professionals on the marketing team. And we have 4 programs right now at Discord that sort of serve different sections of the much larger Discord user base. And they sort of range from, at the smaller end, our partner program, which is where we build relationships and support and reward the folks behind some of the most creative, inclusive, and welcoming servers on Discord. And we work with them directly and get to know them and support them, to our sort of largest program, which is our Hype Squad program, which has millions of people in it and is just a super fan program that anyone can be part of if you love Discord and want to sort of be more involved with the company. So it's super fun to be able to work with so many different portions of our community and just do whatever we can to serve them and make sure that their needs are still continue to be listened to and represented internally.
That's super cool. So I think a really big topic in gaming, and especially what we saw through our last panel about this topic, is moderation in the community industry, and especially with all these programs and games really taking off to a whole other level during the pandemic. I think that's become a little bit more of a challenge these days. So I wanted to get all of your thoughts on how you currently moderate within your communities. And like, what does community moderation look like for you, and how do you deal with any challenges that arise? So let's kick it off with Alyssa here. I think she has some really interesting insights.
All right. So in terms of moderation, it's very interesting because for us, we've been blessed with such a huge, passionate, and amazing community for Assassin's Creed. And so because of that, we have amazing community members who have stepped up and said, I want to be a moderator for your Discord and your subreddit. And so we really work closely with them to make sure that they got the resources that they need. I remember when we were launching for Assassin's Creed, they didn't get the early access yet, and they knew, especially when it comes to moderating the subreddit, there's going to be a lot of spoilers that they weren't really, they don't want to see it yet because they want to play the game too. And so to make sure that they can also get a head start so that they can play the game too, along with other influencers and like content creators, we provided them the early access of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And so they were able to play the game and make sure that they're able to moderate happily, hopefully. And so that I think just supplying them with the resources that they needed at the time to help moderate was one of the key things for sure.
Yeah, that's such an important program. That's really amazing. What about you, Isaiah?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Elisa. And as your community grows, people will naturally, want to step up and reach out and try and get involved on a deeper level with the communities that you're building. So we have robust moderation programs across our official Discords. We work really closely with the moderators of our subreddit as well. And it's all about, just kind of being in constant communication with them about what's happening, on an update to update basis, giving them an early heads up about, maybe something that's going to be happening, that's going to be hype in particular, that's going to drive a lot of conversation. That way they know to get ready and prepare for all of the excitement and hype that's coming in the community. But one thing that I've learned over the course of my years in doing community management is that when you find a good moderator or a good moderation team, hold on to them as tightly as you can, because they are doing amazing work. And one of the most underestimated and undervalued positions in a community, I think, is a community moderator that's doing a great job.
Absolutely. That's so key. And you're so right. You definitely do have to hang on to them and make sure that that person is really elevated and supported. Mindy, on your side, it's a little bit of a unique situation. Can you share a little bit more about user-generated content and, how that sort of plays into moderation and what that looks like on your end?
Yeah, definitely thank your moderators, hug your moderators. Agree with that. And yeah, I think the main thing, for different jobs in the past where I've been both sides in terms of managing moderators, but also doing a lot of moderation myself, I think the most important thing is to have very clear rules and uphold them vigorously and fearlessly, because moderating is actually very hard. There's a lot of gray areas. It's not black and white. People's own individual experiences and biases can influence decisions. And so having as clear rules as you can, but always updating them and clarifying them and building on them to make sure that you're always creating the space in the community that you want. And really, no one should be above them. I've had instances in the past where we've had perhaps more influential or famous members of our community saying things, and then having to have the discussion. This is at a previous job, but are we gonna kick this person out because we know of the upset that it's going to cause? But the answer should always be yes. No one should get away with saying things that are against the rules or are making the space not as you want your space to be, and just setting that standard from the beginning. And with UGC, once you get into images, it's even harder to moderate effectively. And I just, hats off to everyone who works in trust and safety, who works in moderation and support, because those roles are not hard. And this is kind of where carving this industry out day by day. These rules on the internet don't exist until people have to make them. So I just think it's great work, and I'm fascinated by the space and supporting the people who are having to make those decisions every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you all touched on, creating rules and upholding them. I think another really interesting topic is actually creating values for your community and the people that are in there. And I think it's really unique for gaming because there is a certain element with gaming of, like trash talking, and like that's such a big part in like playing games. So how do all of you approach like that, but also just like creating these values and upholding them and communicating them to your communities and to your programs? And anybody can kick it off here.
I think a big thing is just as a community leader and being a community manager in your space is just kind of leading by example. The community will, look at what you're doing and how you're carrying yourself and kind of adopt those values. But I think Mindy hit on a great point is, making sure that you communicate what's expected out of your community members from the gate, and then just kind of upholding those values. On the high-res side, we make competitive games, and, with competitive games, there's just that inherent nature of just having a little bit of edge. And, we encourage competition, but one of our key values that we like to communicate and, portray across everything that we're doing is just being sportsmanlike, whether that be through, upholding those values to our professional players in our esports league, or making sure that our community tournament organizers are holding their players to those values as well. Just kind of hitting everything from all sides, just to make sure that, hey, we want our community to be the most inclusive place and the safest place for all of our players, while also, having that healthy competition.
Yeah, and I find that like hold that same value and making sure that same value is being instilled into your community members is so important, Isaiah. This is why, through our Mentors Guild program that we have on Assassin's Creed, which is the community leadership program that we have, we want to make sure that our community leaders follow that same value as well, and make sure that they are good role models, because yes, like for me, for example, I'm not like a popular community like figure in our community. I think there are much more interesting people that needs to be the leaders and upfront and be in the spotlight. But this is why for our community leaders, it's really important that they have the same standards as we do as professionals as well. And so recently, I actually taught them. I did a master class on how to handle trolls, and how they can instill them. One of the key things that I mentioned there is to have moderators that will also instill your values and your rules and everything that we just talked about. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like the point about setting the behaviors that you want and other people will follow them. And it can be anything from, in gaming, like saying like, hey, everyone, like, good luck, have fun. Like, this is just a game. We're all here to have fun. Like, let's just like be sportsmanly and have fun. And in a community, it's, by just being like welcoming when someone joins. It's by setting those sort of welcoming, friendly behaviors that show that we're all here together to have a good time, while being competitive and wanting to win is key, I think.
Yeah, that's very true. Oh, looks like Lincoln is back.
Hi, sorry about that. Embarrassing. But yeah, thank you. I think I just had an Ethernet issue going on, so
No
I think
worries.
it's all solved. And I hate to disrupt the flow because you guys are having good conversation there. But looks like we're on to the next topic, unless there was anything else you guys wanted to cover.
I think we had some great discussion around moderation. Let's hop into the next topic, but I'm sure we're going to have some more Q&A around moderation and values come out later, so we can jump back into it during the Q&A.
Okay. And we're going to talk about user-generated content. Is that the next topic?
So we chatted through that a little bit already.
Okay, cool.
So let's jump into what it actually takes to be a good community member, and how we can share that out with our communities. So like just really making sure that we're raising the appropriate voices within our community and dealing with toxicity really quickly. So yeah, maybe everybody could share just a little bit more about how they approach that.
It's funny, since running communities, when you're on the other side of it as a community member, I sort of either jump between like not helping myself and trying to like be the manager in a space, like trying to get conversation going with people, like even if I'm just there to be a member, or actually sometimes, you know, our job is helping people a lot, that it's just actually just really relaxing to be more of a passive member and just sort of enjoy and listen, and yeah, as you said, raise up other voices that are happening. So I'm not really sure if that's a helpful answer, but I think some of the most fascinating communities I'm part of are communities of all community managers, because we all get it and we all like are very quick to getting like right to the point, and it's very supportive. We all like take it for granted that we all know like how to operate in this space. It's very interesting, and I'm like fascinated by community managers of community managers. But just from like in my own communities, I just try and be, you know, present, engaged, and only join ones that I have the bandwidth to actually participate in meaningfully, because I just don't have the time, and I want to respect the people who run them to make sure if I'm joining, I'm like committing to it, and I will be an active, good participant and good member, and volunteer to help where I can and things like that, and try and only sign up for as many as I have room for.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that it's funny that a lot of the qualities that I think are really, really great for being a community manager are also qualities that are great for being a community member. You know, things like being positive, being understanding, being empathetic, being willing to help people, and just being willing to just engage in conversation. I think are really great qualities if in being a member of an actual community.
So,
Should I say something?
yeah, go for it.
Sorry, sometimes I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, yes, and that's why, like, I think that's why we all say, like, we as community professionals are really the great role models for us too. That rings true, and for us, I think this is why we have these like rules in place to make sure that. And also expectations, right? Laying out those expectations earlier on to the community leaders, especially, and say these are the kind of behaviors that we expect from you as a leader, and equipping them again with the right set of tools that they can help go that way. For us, it's making sure that not only they're helpful and welcoming and positive, they also are resourceful on their own as well. Because let's face it, we're all very busy. It's not just the management of community that we're involved with, but also in plans with like developing communities and such as that. And so for us, it's really important that the community maintains that sustainability and being able to be their own, be autonomous in a way. And so we're really, really lucky that we have these wonderful community leaders that can really display that. And also just key members of the community that also, follow that example and display that. Yeah.
I would just add, during my time at EA, kind of along the same lines as trying to develop a particular, we had a work program called on that being sort of an exclusive group of were really interested in making sure that the quality of the games that we're making was accountable. So I worked on the Battlefield series for many years. Changes program was really critical to that, and kind of giving them the opportunity to actually speak with the game developers, the content creators, and along with that, having that kind of access and being game changer. There were certain levels of responsibilities that you had to uphold. And in doing that, it also they had a sense of responsibility, not only because of the access that they had as a game changer, but that responsibility to kind of help ensure other community members kind of help in terms of engaging with people and kind of how they presented themselves. So I think having that kind of official recognition is really important. Sorry, I just kind of jumped in as I put on my community hat there.
Can't take it off.
That was awesome.
Never take it off.
So on to the next topic.
Yeah, let's jump into it. I'm just going to
Cool.
stay in just in case there's any other tech
Yeah,
issues.
please do.
Yeah.
Please do, Marcia. Thank you. So on those same lines is what I was kind of celebrating is kind of how do you elevate and celebrate those VIP members, specific programs or recognition. And maybe we'll kind of start with you, Mindy, because I think, and I don't know if you guys already talked about this, but the fact that you kind of have had your previous experience before you kind of moved into Discord in the gaming industry, kind of curious if you have any kind of different approaches that you've seen work in different communities that you've managed.
Yeah, thank you. And I think CMX has lots of great resources on this, but the sort of having understanding of the different things that motivate different people to take different actions or different behaviors. And so that's where having a deep understanding of who it is that you're trying to work with and what you're trying to achieve is critical, because depending on the person, what will motivate them will be different from person to person. And sometimes it depends. Sometimes it's simply financial. It can be access. It can be resources. It can, it depends. So I try and have a wide variety of ways to reward and amplify the, extra special members of the community, for whatever reason that might be defined as, to make sure that, all of the motivations are covered and respectful of the different things that people want from a program, because it's not the same for everyone. And that seems to have had pretty good results in the past. Sometimes it's purely just access, having one-to-one chats. It's getting to try out new features early. Sometimes it's promotion. Sometimes it's financial. It's, it depends on the person. Some people just want to do it because they care so much, and they're more than happy to, and they're the ones that I try and am protective of the most. And I think another thing that I always keep in mind is sort of the balance of give and take from a community manager and a community member or user, to make sure that it's at least equal, but ideally you want to feel like you're giving your community more value than you're taking from them. And so something I keep in mind a lot, especially when other teams or companies start being like, oh, let's tap the community for this, and understanding, the amount of time that those simple requests that might sound simple actually take in reality from the community members, and making sure that, the value that they'll be getting from it is worth what, the time that we're taking from them. So that's
yeah. Yeah, that's good insight. I think the motivations are pretty critical. When we talk to people who especially are starting a new community, everyone's like, how do you really get people engaged, especially those who are going to be community leaders? Motivations, to your point, people have different reasons for getting involved in community, and really understanding those first before you, to your point, kind of tap into the community and start to try to extract value. And those withdrawals, like how are you depositing into the community and giving them kind of what they really need? So Isaiah or Alyssa, anything to add on that topic?
No, I think Mindy brought up a great point. The community members, the ones that really want to stand out and become leaders, they'll make themselves apparent. But, not everybody will want the same thing. So it's all about kind of tailoring the needs to community members for their individual programs and the things that they're doing. For example, we have a great team of community leaders that runs our wiki pages for our games. And all they want is just patch notes early. That's it. Rather than, our Twitch streamers who they want codes and in-game swag to give out to their communities. And we're always looking for potential community leaders and streamers that we feature on our official game channels for, rotating slots. So it's all about just, having those conversations and figuring out how we can best support and supplement what they're doing in the community.
Yeah, like with Twitch streamers too, they like sometimes all they might just want is the amplification on your social accounts, on the company social accounts, right? And so we're starting to try to do that a bit more. On top of that too, for us, one of the things that we used to do before, COVID and the quarantine happened, we'd actually invite some of our community leaders to our studio and have them meet our developers, because they've been with their brand for so long, and they're just so excited to meet the people that were behind our game. And so we provide that intimate like event where we invite them for dinners, and they can like have like really cool conversations about the franchise and where it's going, and potential discuss like theories and things like that. I remember when we did that a year ago, in November, I believe. And it was such a great experience for our community leaders, and I just wish that we could do that again soon. Maybe virtually though, but yeah.
Cool. That's really interesting in terms of talking about the difference of community leaders, volunteers, whatever, in terms of like, as you mentioned, like, Twitch streamers versus people who just kind of work on your wiki pages. How many, just curious, kind of like, what is the general size of your community in terms of those people that you work with? Not the, the broad spectrum, but the people that you would consider those kind of different categories that you work with on a daily or weekly basis?
That's a good question. I would say we've got a fairly large community across all of our games, but in terms of just like the kind of inner circle, for lack of a better term, and the community leaders that we're really working with kind of on a frequent basis, I would say it's probably ranges between our mod teams and our player councils and leadership members, probably between 50 and 100 that we're working with on a weekly basis, in constant communication about what's going on.
Cool.
Yeah, for Ubisoft, for Assassin's Creed Mentors Guild program, we increased the members from just 13, I think, a year ago or before the game launch, and then we increased it now to up to 80, I believe now. We provide like I guess like a global team update once a month. But then they're always in touch with like their regional contacts, who work at Ubisoft, of course. And so they're always getting that daily interactions as they need, as they go on. Yeah. Interesting.
How about you? What is your circle or your kind of like group of you've kind of anointed special power?
It's actually something that I'm still actively working on, I'll be honest with you, because the Discord community is very large. And even in our smaller programs, we have over 5,000 partners who I am really focused on right now, getting to know them. And we have a server with just our partners where, we're talking every day. And yesterday we actually hosted a 2-hour happy hour with them that we're doing monthly now to try and deepen some of those bonds with our partners and just find ways to scale where possible those kinds of human connections and relationships, and encouraging the community to interact with each other too. But it's definitely a challenge and something that I still want to get better at.
Yeah, nice, cool. We'll keep moving, and kind of good transition in terms of you kind of stay engaged, especially following everything that happened in 2020. Kind of what lessons have you learned? Successes that you can share in terms of how you are able to identify and keep those community leaders engaged. You can't maybe do in-person events. What kind of experiences or experiments have you done in a post 2020 that you're starting to employ for 2021?
Yeah, I can go ahead and kick this one off. So it's funny that 2020 was the year where the team at Hi-Rez was like, we're going to go and start going to all these conventions and meeting players where they are and doing all sorts of these live meet and greets. And then 2020 just was not the year to start doing that. So even though that was unfortunate, we kind of pivoted our strategy to just being really, really heavy on social media engagement and kind of, we still have a social calendar that we kind of uphold, but being willing to just kind of be a little bit more fast and loose in regards to social media, whether that be just hopping in on conversations, posting memes, really just having fun on social media. And we took that approach, and we host a live event every year. That's kind of our world championships for all of our games. But we took that social media approach, and it ended up being our best event ever in regards to like social media engagement, impressions, and participation. So really just kind of throwing the calendar out the window and just being in the community and live tweeting and being excited with players helped us out tremendously.
Cool.
Go ahead, Mindy. I saw you.
Yeah, I miss live events so much.
Me too.
I miss them. I miss them so much. I miss traveling. I miss getting to meet people. I miss conferences, meetups, dinners, coffees. Like, I just miss it so much. And I think I read early on last year that the connections that you make in person, you have to make like 20 of them online to like be able to replicate that level of like bond and connection that you make in person. So I think learning that was really helpful in like giving myself a break. Like, look, we're not going to be able to build the level of connections as quickly and as easily when we're not able to meet in person. So that just setting that expectation for myself and team was really helpful. And then just leveling up the amount of casual events online. I think there's been like different stages of the pandemic where we were all like really hyped and we had events every night, and then we all got burnt out. And now I think I found like a nice groove where still want some social connection with the community, still want to create space for it, but also recognizing that everyone's at a different space mentally on any given day, and not like trying to force it too much. So I think reaching out to people individually goes a long way right now, checking in with people, meeting them where they're at on that day, and making space for, hopping into voice chat with people, hanging out, arranging like very casual events as well goes a long way. And I've kind of put a lot of my budget that would have gone to events to surprise and delighting with physical goods. So being able to send people, swag packages, gift boxes, and little things like that to make them know that, hey, you're not alone. You're still part of this community, and we still can't wait to get to hang out in the future. And here's what we can do in the meantime. But not everyone has the bandwidth right now to be doing events every night. So I'm also trying to, just meet people where they're at right now online too.
Yeah, like I honestly wish that we can send out more like cool packages and things like that, but right now it's so hard to do that. We had this like amazing plan set out for 2020 before COVID hit. We had this like cool events planned, just like you, Isaiah and Mindy. We've had this amazing cool packages that we were gonna send, and all these amazing dinners and things like that. And then COVID hit. And this also included our community plan for AC Valhalla. We had this set of like plans that we were going to do to create these amazing videos to really engage with our community. But due to like plans have changed, because we had to focus on, or at least our department as a whole had a different focus at the time that really needed a lot more resources, which also meant tapping into our resources, and that really meant that we had to adapt really quickly. One of the things that we had to do from that too in 2020 was tapping really into our own teams, like resources. Not only did we do a lot more like one-on-one meetings with our teammates, we also were able to really figure out what their strengths were. So back to what I was saying about the video plan, because we needed someone to do videos, but we didn't have that resources anymore. And when we looked at our own team, we saw that we had a teammate that was actually an amazing capture artist / video editor. And so we got him to do all these amazing works that they've done, that we had planned. And now those videos are one of our most top performing content pieces at Ubisoft. Specifically speaking, is the AC lore guide video. It's basically a really quick breakdown of how Assassin's Creed really ties into the next like franchise. So if you're if you want to get into Assassin's Creed, that's the video to really look into to really catch up on the lore. But yeah, it was so amazing how we were able to adapt quickly to these changes that happened in 2020, and now we know moving forward in 2021 we need to really look at our own team for that internal resources as well.
What's the name of that video? One more. Get back into Assassin's Creed. I definitely. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the universe is so big, and like the lore is so long. But it's called Assassin's Creed Lore Guide Video, Volume 1 to 5. So
nice. Okay, cool.
Love it.
That's it. Okay, so moving on, and to keep us honest, how are we doing on time?
We're okay on time. We do want to jump into the breakout sessions in around 10 minutes, but we can go a little bit over here. I see we have a couple of great questions, and there's a couple more topics we want to discuss here, so we can shave a few minutes off the breakout sessions.
Okay, cool. I think so the next topic is kind of how do you measure success? I think this is a pretty common question that we have as community leaders, especially because of my technical difficulties on the beginning. I think community is the most important thing that pretty much any industry, especially, can really invest in. But historically, because everybody wants to understand the attribution and the return on investment and how. So curious to maybe just go around the horn, and if you can kind of share some of your main KPIs that you track to kind of show the value or kind of prove the value of community, anything from sentiment to revenue or customer acquisition, and maybe so you can kick off.
Yeah. So at Ubisoft, we're really focused on like community sentiment. We have a dedicated listening team that sends out these reports on how the community feels and what they're thinking and things like that. And it's really valued. And so for us, that's like our compass that we trust. I mean, aside from the social media metrics that we all use, like the impressions, engagement rate, and things like that. But for us, is the community sentiment is also huge key. And we can see the ups and the lows depending on what update came out or what kind of issues are coming forward and things like that. Cool.
And how do you measure that? What's the actual metric? Is it like on a scale of 1 to 10? Is it a monthly report that you send out? Like, what is the actual specific?
Yeah. So we send out weekly reports. We get this quantified report on the sentiments, and it's broken down into like a percentage. So it's out of 100%, and you get the positive, the neutral, and the negative sentiments. And obviously, like the AI is not perfect because human emotion is very complex, and so I see Minnie is nodding because like some people will say like they meant it as a positive thing, but maybe the AI will pick it up as a negative sentiment because of all caps or whatever. Anyway, but it is as accurate as we can get. At least we try to, and it's pretty accurate to what we see in terms of like feedback, right? We also match that quantified report of the community sentiments to what the players are saying in the community. And so when we see that, it's like, okay, it makes sense why, this week the community sentiment is XYZ, because we see that these were the top hot topics of that week.
Cool. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Mindy, what do you look at?
Different things at different companies. It all depends on what the business challenges are. What action is the business really focused on this year, and how can community play a part in that? And so at differing times, that might be acquisition, that might be retention. And one thing I'm especially proud of in my career was at a Patreon, we recognized that there was a lack of trust within the community, just through years of changes, bugs, just things that can erode trust throughout time. And we, made a plan for spend a whole year dedicated on improving trust within our current community. And we developed a monthly survey that would go out to both members of the community, so people who were in our forum, who were in our Discord, who were attending meetups, and those who weren't. And through the events that the community team was running, we were able to sort of prove that if you were a member of the community, you were twice as likely to trust the company and sort of speak of it positively. So that to me became the metric that I cared most about and would present on every month, and really showed the value that community was driving, which is really hard to measure sometimes. And then it felt like once we achieved that, we moved on to a different metric. We were then caring more about growth on the platform. So I think the great thing about community is that once you've built those relationships, you can apply a different lens or focus or measure different impacts, because really community is impacting every element of the business. I truly believe that it's like the foundational glue that holds everything together, and you can kind of use it to prove whatever story that you want, because it's doing so much behind the scenes. And so that's, depending on what is the focus for the business, that's the sort of angle and the spotlight that I'll try and show how community is impacting, and double down my investments in that area.
Nice. I like the trust. I've not heard that metric necessarily, but I agree. I think it's extremely critical, because without that, nothing else really matters in terms of your marketing or your PR or whatever, if nobody trusts you, what you're saying. Isaiah, how about you?
Yeah, I'm with Alyssa. For high-res, sentiment is probably our number one thing that we're using in terms of like KPIs. We can use our listening tools to get a quick snapshot, similar to what Alyssa was saying, for a quick percentage. But we also make a really conscious effort to kind of dive into the conversations and really try and pick apart what players are talking about to see if we can get to the root cause of negative sentiment. For sure. We also look at, the general social media metrics like impressions, engagement rate, followers, video views, etc. But we also, because we're really focused on games as a service and free-to-play games, we really look at CCU and DAU as one of our key metrics that we're looking at as well. Concurrent users and daily active users, for those who don't know the acronyms, but that's another big metric that we look at as well.
Cool. Awesome. So we've got one more question, and this one is just of industry trends for 2021. My favorite right now is Clubhouse and how that's going to kind of trend throughout the year. So I'm curious, maybe off with you, Isaiah, on this topic, because I've been in some Clubhouse chats with you lately.
Yes, Clubhouse is definitely the new hotness. And I've just found the platform just really fascinating at how easy it is to just bring people together from all different walks of life, different spaces, different industries. I feel like it's going to be the new wave here in a little bit. Twitter is catching up. They've got their Twitter spaces that they're launching. I believe Jeff Keighley's hosting one with Reggie Fils-Aimé later this afternoon. So if you guys are curious about the new kind of audio-only social media angle, be sure to tune into Jeff's space on Twitter this afternoon. But I feel like one of the things that it's going to be really great for is just kind of more consistent, less formal and casual conversation with players. A lot of the stuff that we do is like super official and has to be buttoned up and has to go through a bunch of different approval levels and stuff like this. But I feel like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, there's a real opportunity to just hop in a room and just talk to players and chat with fans, which is awesome.
Cool. Mindy?
Yeah, it's funny to see it grow. I think I was on a panel last year on Clubhouse, and I actually didn't like it very much because it felt really exclusive, and I didn't like that you had to have this invite. It reminded me of like so many other apps in the past where it's been like a Silicon Valley, like exclusive. You got to know someone to get in, and actually it's kind of against a lot of what I believe in terms of community. But it seems like, they're 10 million monthly active users right now, so I think they must have sort of loosened the access a little bit lately to sort of feel the growth, and it's fascinating. And I think it's interesting as sort of a progression of the podcasting boom that has also over the past couple of years that I got to see. And I'm honestly excited. I need to like re-download it again and dive back in, because I think I got a bit of a bad first impression, but the conversations that are happening on there are meant to be amazing. And if this is sort of like another way to build like genuine connections and communities with people. It's kind of interesting to see how it's going to shape out. And yeah, it's fascinating. I'm watching it as well as everyone else. I don't have any hot takes. I just need to like look at it a bit more.
Nice. Yeah, I would add to that, Mindy. I would have did. Just felt like it was too kind of an echo chamber of people just cloud chasing.
Yeah.
But I've found some interesting conversations on there. As I see in the chat, Android users are still left out. So there's still definitely a situation where it's kind of has that exclusive feel to it. But I think they have sort of loose. It doesn't seem like it's that hard to get in, but still creating that kind of impression I don't think is necessarily positive. But it'll be interesting to see how it evolves and grows. To your point, like, is it some people is club. I think that there's a minute for all these different tools, and especially leaders, like, how do you navigate the world of all these different tools? Because you can't do everything on every platform. You can't have a Clubhouse chat. You can't have, virtual events. You can't have Discord events and things like that. So, Alyssa, if you've got any other kind of hot takes on 2021 trends, tools, and technology, or anything else related to that.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if this is really a new hot trend, because I've always thought that, accessibility is such an important key aspect, right? And I noticed that TikTok has done such an amazing job at addressing that in 2020. Speech to text, amazing. And then you've got also like this Instagram like side app called Thread, where if you create a video with it, it actually creates closed captions automatically. And it also blocks out the swear words. So
Cool.
these videos can then become TikTok friendly and follows the TOS. And I see that being used very well by all these like different content creators that are trying to grow their channels as well. And obviously, again, this is not like a hot new trend or anything like that, but I do notice that like more and more streamers are using that marketable platform to grow themselves, and using that accessibility key features that TikTok has rolled out.
That's cool.
Such an amazing thing. Yeah.
Nice. We'll kind of wrap it up there, and I'll pass the mic back over to Marcia for our next transition.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lincoln. So glad that you were able to jump back in. It was really valuable to have your perspective in this panel as well. So before we jump into the breakout sessions, we did get a couple of great questions, so I want to make sure that we do go through them. So let's kick it off with Matthew Canada. Love the last name. I'm in Toronto, or maybe that you just put that in as where you're based, not sure. So gaming has grown to an astounding scale over the past few years. With that growth, how do you handle staying involved with your communities while also delivering the player voice / concerns to the rest of your team? So who wants to kick it off for this one?
I can kick it off.
Awesome.
I think the biggest thing that I've had to do personally is just block out time to just make sure I do it, because community managers and community in general, you wear so many hats and you can get so busy that you can forget, to just take time to just be in the community. So it's just blocking out time. Hey, don't bother me for a couple hours. I'm going to go talk to people. I'm going to go hang out in streams. I'm going to go lurk on Reddit. I'm going to go see what people are talking about. And then while you are in the community and in the space, just taking note of what people are talking about, and just really trying to dig in, and maybe not copy pasting exactly what they're saying, but just doing your best to kind of analyze what's going on and picking out the key things that you can bring back to the team, and trying to make that conversation and feedback actionable is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think for us too, like in part to like spending time with the community, it's also about knowing your product, right? So for me, I played AC Valhalla from start, and making sure that when a new feature comes out, for instance, I play it as well, so that I understand what tribulations that come with it. And so when players do talk about it, I'm like, aha, I know what they're talking about because I've also experienced that. So I can then, voice it to our team and be like, hey, this is the thing that came up. And as well as tapping into our community leaders as well.
Yeah, plus one to those things. Just
Awesome.
don't have a lot to add. Yeah, like just finding
Totally.
ways to scale your involvement and then work harder to sort of effectively summarize the main themes and trends and try and point to that as often as you can.
Awesome. So one more question that we'll take is from Carol. So she asks, interested to know how we can help game studios when we can't meet them at industry events like GDC. Again, I'll let anybody jump in here.
I think one of the things that would really help is like virtual events like this, right? But for communities, and being able to amplify that a bit more, I think that would be a great way to help.
Yeah, I would agree. Just find out where the kind of industry talks and industry spaces are happening. I think Bevy is doing some awesome work with talks like this. I feel like there's some pretty good communities and rooms on Clubhouse. Not to shout them out again, but but just kind of finding out where the conversation is happening and figuring out how you can hop in and give your perspective and maybe add some of your abilities for assistance and help.
Yeah, I think asking for help in those spaces is crucial, and then I'm trying to respond and help out people as much as I can, or connect others where I think there might be a better fit. So I think the people who ask for help are the ones who are more likely to get it. So finding those areas where you can get support and advice and mentorship and learn from others is going to be crucial.
Yeah. Another thing is that if there's a studio or an industry professional or somebody that you're interested in getting involved with, a good cold email goes a long way. Especially in these times where people know, there's no GDCs, no networking events. I know I look at my email and I respond to people all the time. So, just working on cold emails and just not being afraid to put yourself out there.
Awesome. Great insights, everybody. Thank you so much. So for the next session of this event, we're going to jump into our breakout rooms. So the way that we have it set up for this event, and we're really excited to try this, is that we have each of the speakers moderating a breakout session. So to get to the sessions, just right at the top of your screen, you'll see the networking tab, and we're going to give you an opportunity to move around just like you would at an in-person event. If you want to speak to one of the speakers in particular, if you're working on a similar community, have some similar challenges, jump into that one first. But if you want to move around and meet other people as well, definitely feel free to do so. So as you go into those breakout rooms, again, they're in the networking tab. And make sure that you turn on your video and your microphone to be able to participate. So we'll see everybody there.